You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
I am the living, and you are the dead.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
If the milk turns out to be sour, I'm not the kind of pussy to drink it.
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
It's a deal. It's a steal. It's the sale of the fucking century.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. Red cabbage? Really? F***ing red cabbage? And welcome to the It Modcast podcast. Weekend Dork. Yay!
Yay! Great bunch of quotes.
Yes. Brian, you pulled out an obscure one. I'm
know,
surprised
man.
you remember that movie.
Yeah, I know, right? That was.
Shit.
I had to go way back.
Was that 92 or?
Something, yeah.
Shit.
I think it was 91, actually.
All right.
I think it was.
I'll do for a rewatch.
There you go.
All right. How was
Trying to tell you.
Is that out on Blu-ray yet?
It should be. I think
Everything
it
is out on Blu-ray, Darren.
It is streaming. It's on Amazon.
Gotta wait for that 4K though.
That's what I'm waiting for, to see that in 4K. All right. How was your weekend, Dork?
Not too bad. What happened? Did I miss something?
Oh, it's just Darren.
You know, things are silly.
He likes to laugh.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Your weekend, Dork.
Okay. So saw a couple films. First film I saw, was Marshall. This is the new film starring Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty good cast. Josh Gad and Josh Gad, Kate Hudson, Sterling K. Brown, Dan Stevens, James Cromwell. It's got a really
Dan
good...
Stevens?
Yeah, he's the attorney. He's the prosecutor.
Can we be real, though? Has Dan Stevens done anything since The Guest that we care about?
He's been in a lot of
Beast.
things.
Yeah, I know, Lisa.
He sang. It
I'm
was
sticking
very
by
sexy.
my statement.
Oh, that we care about?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know. So,
what about Marshall? Do we care about him in Marshall?
Probably not.
Damn.
But the thing about this film is, like, this really tells the story of Thurgood Marshall kind of before he became the Supreme Court judge, and this is before Brown versus Board of Education. So this, you could almost kind of say this is his origin story.
X-Men Origins.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yeah. So, and I think doing that, it really gives the filmmakers a lot of liberty to really kind of tell their own story, even though there are cases that he was taking on. Basically, he was taking on cases where people were being prosecuted just because of the color of their skin. So he was working for the NAACP, and there was these cases around the country. So they would send him around to these cases where he felt like people were being fairly unfairly prosecuted just on the basis of race. And
This case, is it a fictionalized case or was it?
I think it's real. I'm not positive.
Okay.
I have to do a little bit more research, but it's basically Sterling K. Brown plays Joseph Spell, and he's convicted of rape because he was a driver for Kate Hudson's character. And I don't want to give too much away, but she basically accuses him of rape, and don't spoil it.
I mean, it is maybe history.
Maybe history. So, yeah. But that's the thing about this film that I think I kind of had an issue with, was that this felt more like a TV movie than anything else for me. So when you're looking at like biopics or anything like that, like I'm thinking something that comes to mind is something like Selma, where you're really able to kind of dig deep into either the person or the situation or that era, or focusing on that time and really get to kind of, go deep into the material. This film just felt like they were just kind of covering something on the surface level. and it didn't really feel like they really got into the meat of whether it was this case or whether it was who Thurgood Marshall was as a man. It just felt very surface level to me.
It is weird that Chadwick Boseman is doing all of these biopics.
Yeah,
from
I know.
James Brown to Jackie Robinson
42,
to this.
Yeah.
I mean, how does it stack to those others?
To me, I think it's a little less than. I think Get On Up, I think it's a little underrated, and he was really
is amazing.
Yeah, he was really, really good in that. And I don't really want to come down hard on this film because I think even though it feels like a TV movie, the performances really elevate this movie, I think, to really just kind of make it a little better than probably what it really is. I mean, Sterling K. Brown is really good. Josh Gad is good. I mean, he's really a character that you really empathize with in this whole thing. And he's the person that he's like an insurance investigator, and he has to. He's trying to get Marshall to be accepted to hear over this case because he's not part of the bar, and I forget what state it is. So he basically has to vouch for him in front of the judge, and he's able to do that. And then he ends up having to take on the case because the judge tells him that Thurgood Marshall, he can sit in on the case, but he's not allowed to speak. Mm-hmm. So basically, Josh Gad has to basically try the case, and he's not like a murder, like he's not a homicide.
So it's kind of like a Cyrano de Bergerac story.
Yeah, you could say something like that. So it's kind of interesting. And Chadwick Boseman is just amazing. Again, I mean, the dude has charisma through the roof. And again, the performances, Kate Hudson, I'm not really a big fan of Kate Hudson, but I thought she was really good in this as well. And I thought Dan Stevens is Dan Stevens. I'm still waiting for him because I like Dan Stevens.
I love The Guest.
Yeah, The Guest.
Colossal.
Oh, hey!
Oh, yeah. He was
It
good.
took me a little.
Guess what? He's fine in that.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
I love
that movie, and it's going to be in the Dorkies.
Yes.
Not because of Dan Stevens. He's fine.
Oh.
He was not a detriment to
saying,
my eyes.
He is so epically awesome in The Guest, and I agree, Lisa. He is handsome. But I'm waiting for him to have another impactful character like what we saw in that film.
The Guest is basically a showcase piece for
Dan Stevens.
Yeah. So
well, the one thing I'm going off a little side note with Dan Stevens, I'm looking forward to the Netflix film Apostle, which is being directed by Gareth Evans. Mm-hmm. That's his next film from The Raid, and I think that's going straight to Netflix. But it's starring Dan Stevens, so I'm interested to see. You know, if Gareth Evans is going to have Dan Stevens doing some crazy martial arts.
Kicking ass for the Lord.
Oh, Jesus. So was Marshall a good placeholder until we get to see Boseman again in Black Panther?
Were you thinking that? Come on, February. Come on.
I know. I am. I'm like, oh, okay. This should help me out a little bit. He has a movie on Netflix I still need to check out called Message to the King.
Yeah.
That I want to check out.
I started it.
You did?
Yeah.
How?
I started it.
Okay.
It was late at night.
Yeah, that's the great thing. Like the first trailer they showed was Black Panther. I was like, oh, I can't wait. But he's amazing. And everybody in this film I thought was top notch. Unfortunately, it just felt like a TV movie. But the next film I'm gonna talk about really quick. I know Darren, you said you saw this as well. Was The Foreigner, the film starring Jacky Chan. What's his name? Pierce Brosnan, directed by Martin Campbell. Martin Campbell is famous for doing Green Lantern.
Oh, and GoldenEye and Casino Royale.
You gonna lead with Green Lantern?
Yeah.
Damn.
Don't be mean. We all have a Green Lantern in us.
Oh,
no, I know. I'm harping on Martin Campbell, but I actually like a lot of his earlier works. The James Bond movies that he did. I even like The Mask of Zorro. Yeah, that was really fun. I actually just picked that up on Blu-ray. I got that in the $8 bin at Walmart.
Score.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, Green Lantern was a miss, and Casino Royale I think is probably one of the better Bond films. So I mean, Martin Campbell. This film, okay, I enjoyed the film. I did. I really did, and I think the thing that I really liked about this film was really Jacky Chan and his performance. Seeing him do kind of something that I think a lot of people probably aren't known for seeing Jacky Chan do, but people who know Jacky Chan and are familiar with some of his works from Hong Kong and overseas know that he's capable of bringing out performance like this. Whether you've seen like the new Police Story or other movies of that ilk, he's able to really give you a very raw and intense performance. And the opening of this movie, I really liked that we were getting a mainstream film that audiences could really see what Jacky Chan can do as an actor. We talk about a lot of these 80s action stars, and whether it's Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Schwarzenegger is doing some stuff, whether it's Maggie or something like Aftermath, where you're really seeing him kind of stretch his acting muscles and when they get into like the twilight years of their life. So I like seeing Jacky Chan do that. And some of the moments with his daughter in the beginning, before the tragic event happens, I thought was really, really good. And he was really giving some very nuanced performances that really, I thought, added to his character in it. Unfortunately for me, I think the story kind of gets lost and gets bogged down in too much of this. It was just way too plot heavy when we were focusing so much stuff on the authentic IRA and Pierce Brosnan's character and all this back and forth with the British government and who's behind these bombings and all this stuff. And to me, it just felt like it just got away from what I wanted to see, was the story about Jacky Chan wanting to find vengeance for the death of his daughter. And to me, that's why I thought the film just really kind of lost me. I wanted to focus more on that.
Jacky Chan's storyline about a father seeking revenge for his daughter is a subplot.
Exactly. It's a subplot in the...
Pierce Brosnan has more... Either Pierce Brosnan or his storyline has more screen time than Jacky Chan. And the storyline of that character... seeking revenge for the death of his daughter. Like Brian mentioned, it's Pierce Brosnan he's the first prime minister or the first minister overseas, and he has a history. He used to be in the IRA, so the movie is basically a political thriller in its political intrigue, and then through the government and their battle with the IRA, and the IRA committing this act of terrorism, which happens to take the life of this everyman Jacky Chan, his daughter. That's a collateral damage, and then, but the movie is really focusing on Pierce Brosnan and his role in this political intrigue, and on the outskirts of that, you have this guy trying to find out who's responsible for the death of his daughter. It's really weird, and it's just the narrative structure and how they decided to put this story together and showcase or not showcase Jacky Chan is baffling to me.
I just don't get it.
It does not feel like a Jacky Chan movie. His storyline really is like a subplot in the film.
And it's the best part of the movie. And they just sidetracked that for this other, like you said, this political thriller with Pierce Brosnan that is just not interesting to me.
I think if it wasn't Jacky Chan and the movie was about this political thriller or whatever, and Pierce Brosnan was the lead. I mean, he's great in it. And all the performances are good. Mm-hmm. It's just that if you're selling this movie The Foreigner, and you're selling Jacky Chan, and you're selling this storyline of a father seeking revenge for the death of his daughter,
the trailer sells it as Jacky Chan versus Pierce Brosnan.
Yes, if you're going to sell it as that, then this movie fails to deliver on that premise and that promise. And so I don't know, but if you've never seen the trailer and then you just walk into this movie blind, you may be okay with it. But again, it's still odd in how Jacky Chan he just feels like almost like an afterthought. And then it doesn't help that, granted he is 61 years old now, or in his 60s, and he might not necessarily be as physically capable as he was before, but he is still physically capable. It's just that when they do get to the few moments of action in the film, Martin Campbell doesn't do anything remarkable. If the movie is what it is, and Jackie Chan is on screen with as little screen time as possible. But then when you get to his action beats, if they were exceptional, I might feel a lot better about the film as far as recommending
and that's
it,
the way I felt too. And I mean, of course, they did have to age him up. I mean, of course, Jackie Chan, he's just getting older, but they did put makeup, and then because he said in an interview that they had to age him up to make him look older, but he's still very capable of doing these stunts, and he does showcase some of that stuff, like the one scene in the house. But it's nothing. But I know exactly what you're talking about. It's nothing compared to what they probably could have done if they really utilized what Jackie Chan is known for. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's it's one of those things where we look at our older action stars, like you mentioned earlier, Schwarzenegger or Stallone, and what they were in their heyday, and then them in the twilight years or the later on in their career. And how these films, like The Last Stand, while it was an okay picture, or Escape Plan, how they failed to deliver on. I guess maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's on us for expecting them to be what they were once before. Or
it's on like Escape Plan and what was the Last Stand? They're not good movies.
Yeah.
They're okay movies.
Yeah.
They're 100% mediocre.
Yeah.
And I would say The Foreigner falls into that for me.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, because I like a lot of us grew up with Schwarzenegger. I know you grew up with Schwarzenegger. I mean, Jackie Chan was my guy.
Super Cop.
I mean, Super Cop, Rumble in the Bronx, like in the early mid '90s. I mean, that was my dude. So it's unfortunate that he really couldn't. I mean, I thought this could have been a vehicle that really would have gotten more eyes to see. Like, oh man, Jackie Chan. Let me check out Drunken Master. Let me check out these other movies. And
it did on Film School Rejects. Rob Hunter, the head reviewer there, put a list together. I think it's 57 Jackie Chan movies that you can stream online right now.
Really? Wow.
And I would click on that list and get to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know there's still a lot of Jackie Chan I probably haven't seen.
Oh, definitely my case.
The dude's been working for a long time. And just a side note, man, the people in the theater, and I know, like, I mean, and I'm glad you're engaged in the film, but we don't need your commentary through the whole entire movie.
It depends on what type of engagement it is. If you're responding to the energy that you're getting in from the film and reacting emotionally to it, but if you're doing the, oh man, Jackie Chan's going through that door right now because behind that door is Pierce Brosnan. We know. Was that like what type?
Similar to that. I mean, it was basically this couple just talking amongst themselves throughout the whole movie. Every time something was happening. I mean, they were talking about the movie. But I'm just like, all right, come on. And that just added to my frustration about this film. It made me really want to go back and rewatch it because I couldn't really focus because the plot was so convoluted in and of itself. And then I got these jackasses to my right.
Translating for you. You should have listened.
I probably should have. But, just be considerate. People, please.
Nobody listening to this podcast talks during the movie.
I know. That's why I was like, this is not the right audience.
Choir.
I know this is the wrong audience. But
what we need to do is protest outside of that theater.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Oh man. So that's my week in Dork. But lastly, Last Jedi trailer hit. Darren, did you watch it?
Nope. But I did see that Den of Thieves trailer.
I did too. They showed that during the forum. I had no idea about that movie.
I love Pablo Schreiber, and that looks like I'm excited.
Pablo
to see
Schreiber.
It. That's the guy. That's the main dude who's like, all right, we're gonna do this job or whatever.
Oh, the one with O'Shea and 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Oh, the white dude.
Yeah, he's in. I first saw him in Orange Is the New Black. He's in 13 Hours.
Oh, 13 Hours. That dude. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, he's really good. So I hope this doesn't turn out to be another 999. Huh?
I know, dude. That's exactly what I thought. Like it was a good trailer. But I was
really
like, Gerard Butler. Yeah. I was like,
Geostorm.
Stop. I'm excited to see Geostorm.
I mean, so am I. I'm not gonna lie. JFK predicted that shit in 1961, or so Facebook tells me. But the Last Jedi trailer, Darren, you can plug your ears, but Brian, oh my God,
it's great. It's awesome.
Lisa,
well. I know
I'm nodding.
I know Darren didn't watch my reaction, but I kind of try to break everything down because that's a really, really good trailer with a lot of misdirection that's going to keep people talking until the release. And I thought that was brilliant the way they really edited and put that trailer together.
Rey's going to be a Sith.
But it looks really good.
I'm definitely gonna love that porg.
I know. I got my
So
tickets,
cute.
man, but I had to get 3D.
Oh,
fuck! But I got good seats though.
You could just close one
If
eye.
you would just come out to the movie theater with me, man, I could have got your ticket. I got like 2 sets of tickets to 2 different theaters.
You know, they have that fan event.
I got tickets to that one.
But that's just like $30.
no, it's $40.
It depends on where you go.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
I got tickets to it though.
For the 6 o'clock showing.
I got tickets to it though, and
But
then I'm
I'm
going to see it
good.
at 10 at the Alamo.
$9.50.
All on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Wow.
I may have gotten 2 sets, Lisa.
I got through it. I got through on Fandango and the Alamo app.
Wow. Well, I got tickets. It's 3D. But I got good seats, so I'm not worried
Good.
about it.
Good. Are you in the middle? Sort of middle?
Yeah, sort of middle. It was
Okay.
to the side, to the left.
Okay.
But as long as I see the movie at 7
right.
o'clock on
Back
Thursday.
and to the left.
I have to stop working on Thursday evenings.
Yeah.
So lame.
Oh, you're not gonna be able to see it
I'm
Thursday
gonna
night?
I'm gonna see it at 9:50.
Okay.
But Brad will have already seen it once.
Ah.
So full of shit.
Maybe.
Really?
Maybe.
You gonna do that?
I should have wove this shit into our wedding
I
vows.
wasn't gonna
Yeah.
do it, Lisa, but then they had a fan celebration.
Yeah. Well, guess who's also missing the fan celebration? Your wife at work.
I'll Facebook Live it.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, wife Dork, how was your week in Dork?
I had a fine week in Dork.
Yep.
Very educational. I saw 2 biopics. Coming off of Brian's discussion of Marshall. I saw Battle of the Sexes.
Yay!
And Victoria and Abdul.
I didn't see that one.
Okay, so let's talk Battle of the Sexes.
Yay!
So Battle of the Sexes is about Billie Jean King, who's being played by Emma Stone, who I'm a huge fan of. I just love her in absolutely everything, even La La Land, Brian, even though I found that to be a mediocre musical.
It's okay. It's okay. Still my number 1 of 2016.
I'll never change your mind. And the historical bout she had against Bobby Riggs, who was a male champion of the late 40s. I think like 47, 40. So like he hadn't been like
Damn.
yeah. So it was like the last time he had been like the men's champ was 20 years ago.
When they
I
played
just
tennis with
Googled
rocks?
that. I suppose.
Shit.
You know, it's just
I didn't realize that while watching.
I know. So it was just like him on one side, Hitler on the other.
Right? He was a super has-been.
Yeah,
Fuck.
super has been, and self-proclaimed male chauvinist. Mostly he was a hustler, and he was hard up for cash, a gambling guy, and he thought that putting on a big circus, going like Battle of the Sexes, are who's better physically, men or women? You know, that was his deal. But
Let me ask, do you think that he was just putting on and that maybe he wasn't necessarily a chauvinist in the way that he was portraying
he's
that
totally
match?
a chauvinist. Yeah, totally. But at the same time, I don't think that it was his motivation.
But do you think the movie was trying to make it seem like he wasn't and he was putting on an act because he knew that would draw in the crowd?
No, I totally think that he was 100% positive that he could beat the number 1 woman tennis player in the game,
Right.
because he was good 20 years ago and she's a woman. I honestly think that he believed that.
Right.
But he also was super into the rigmarole about it. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on Billie Jean King because she was a trailblazer for women in sports. Like even today, there is a huge discrepancy between the pay and the attention male athletes get versus female athletes. And so in the 70s, she was going to be part of, I think, the U.S. Open, and the prize money for the female U.S. Open was like a 12th of what the men's prize was.
It's like $1,500 or some shit. Like
Yeah.
that.
So she refused. She said that she was not going to compete, and instead, her and her manager started their own all-female tennis competition.
Sarah Silverman, who was amazing in the movie.
Was she amazing? I'm always so distracted when she's in a movie.
I just like seeing her. Maybe I'm biased.
Don't think that I don't love seeing her, but I still am going, that's Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, and I just love, so that's why she was amazing at being Sarah Silverman to me.
I know, and I do honestly think that she gets better at every movie, and I think that like in this role, she had the opportunity to be funny, she had the opportunity to be heartfelt, and she nailed it all around. But I'm just like, those teeth are perfect. That is Sarah Silverman. But yeah, so they start their own like Virginia Slims women's competition, and they're touring the United States, competing and attracting all of this attention that eventually leads up to this battle of the sexes. So it's what the events in Billie Jean King's life leading up to this battle of the sexes. So while she's on tour, she falls in love with her hairdresser, Marilyn Barnett, who is played by Andrea Riseborough. So they have a love affair while she's on tour. Meanwhile, Billie Jean King has a husband who is played by that guy. I love him and I love his face. What's his name?
I don't know, but he's the James Marsden of this universe. He's so nice, but he's
so nice, and he like, to me, like, I think it's just the role reversal of she is the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And he does love Billie Jean King and love being part of her family and is part of her family.
Oh, dude, it's Austin Stowell from Colossal.
Yeah!
Shit. Yes, the dude.
From Bridge of Spies.
Yeah.
And he's so sweet.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. I feel so bad for him. But it was nice to see him be supportive and understanding that, you know, this is her love and her passion.
And that like, no matter what, he was not going to be first because tennis was first, and tennis will always be first.
Yeah.
But it was a really, like, in terms of biopics, I really appreciated how things were not being as glossed over as, like, sometimes, like, with the, you were talking about with the Marshall movie, things can be a little bit too shiny, a little bit too clean.
Yeah.
Everybody can come off as a little too perfect.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did a really good job of keeping things fairly grounded so that you could empathize more with these people, because they're just people doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
You know, and of course Steve Carell is amazing. I think that he's like he's like a genius, and he gets put in these roles again and again as like this like over the top kind of guy, but like just the sincerity he brings to it, the earnestness that he plays this complete asshole who also has a lot of troubles in his life.
He balances it out so well, because those moments where, like you saying, he's this showman and he's just so boisterous and he's so chauvinistic and proud. But then, like in the end, during that match, when he's humbled and Carell is expressing that or playing that with just him sitting on the bench, and it's all in his face and his posture and how it changes. Like, he was amazing physically as a performer, emoting like that.
I think he's just one of those, like, he's a comedic actor, but because of his understanding of comedy, like, to understand comedy, you just have to know how to change somebody's body chemistry and make them feel an emotion and really inhabit something that is different from you. And I think that he's just like the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I did have towards the end of the movie, like, one little gripe with it. Where I felt like, I'll just say what it was, and then I'll tell you how it made me feel. So there's a character played by Alan Cumming. He plays Cuthbert.
I love Alan Cumming.
Ted Tinling, who is part of the marketing of this female tennis match thingy is that they get new tennis dresses, and so he plays the designer of these tennis dresses. So, and he's like a 70s out gay guy. So, you know, he has a very close partner. They're always together, but nobody says he's not going to go out and say like I'm gay. It's just like one of those like unspoken things. But he ends up being in this film kind of like the magic gay person who's like the magic gay fairy who goes over and makes everything okay. And I didn't mean fairy like that. I just meant like a godmother kind of situation. So with Emma Stone's character, she of course has to balance, like she is putting herself at the forefront of women's liberation in sports, and it's a huge step, and it's a huge risk for her as in her career. So she's taking this tremendous personal risk for women's liberation. Meanwhile, she is hiding the fact that she is a lesbian, or at least, bi or whatever.
And this is her first experience.
Yeah, she's exploring this for the first time, but you can tell that she's always sensed it in herself, and she was just looking kind of for an opportunity to express and explore this part of herself. But there is a lot of, inherent shame and hiding, and she doesn't want to hurt her husband.
And the sponsorship.
Does her husband know? Or
he does and he doesn't. I think that he does. I think that he understands that he's not exactly what she wants, and when Marilyn kind of shows up in his wife's life, he
puts two and two together.
Yeah, he puts two and two together fairly quickly, as if he was waiting for it.
But the amazing thing and about that character, and if this is true about him as a person in their marriage, is that, like Lisa said, he was still supportive. Yeah. He was still like, you know what?
It was still all
deal
about
with this after the
tournament.
Match. Okay. This is what comes first. You need to focus, and I'm here for you, and whatever you need. If you want me to go get her, I'll go get her. And so he was really supportive.
Right. So she's facing a lot of inner turmoil, and so after she wins the match, and it's like, yay, like women can play sports.
It's the final match?
The final match.
Oh.
After she wins this final match,
in the locker room?
she goes into the locker room and she cries. And of course I would cry too. Like, it was a tremendous emotional and physical effort. And then she is kind of like standing in like the sidelines, like looking at everybody celebrate. Mm. And then Alan Cumming comes up to her and goes like, don't worry about it. We'll have our time. You have to take care. And the message that I got from this scene, and it was a small scene, is we have to take care of women's liberation first. And when that's taken care of, then we can be out. Then we can be, truthful about who we are. And so first take care of this, and then we'll take care of that. And I felt like, for one thing, this is a fictionalized version of this story. I don't think that scene was like a historical
Yeah, certainly not.
Reflection of what actually happened. I don't think that these two characters had this conversation.
Right.
And so the reason that scene was in there was, what I feel is the movie was going like, well, are people going to be offended that she's spending so much time on women's liberation that she's not taking care of LGBT liberation, and so we have to put this scene in so that we can cover our bases. But I feel like the message is completely wrong. For one thing, the LGBT liberation in the 70s was so much more complicated and so much harder, and people were doing it. People were doing it in the 70s, working for LGBT rights. And I don't think that we should knock Billie Jean King in any way for being scared and staying in the closet, one. And two, I don't like the message of first these people, then those people, especially now in 2017, where we're trying to establish intersectionality and everybody should be taking care of everyone as best they can. Everybody's needs first. So to me, I saw that scene as a little bit of that historical gloss, one. And I saw it as, more tail covering than necessarily. I think that we could, as a viewer, I got that being a lesbian in the 70s was very hard. And any woman who had the strength and the fortitude to come out was a powerful person. And Billie Jean King, even though she did not have the strength necessarily to fight for her rights as a lesbian, she made huge strides for women's liberation and liberation in sports and women's equality.
Fair to put that on her at that point in her life
Of course
anyway.
not. It's not fair to put on anybody.
Right.
Like, just because you're an oppressed person doesn't obligate you to put your career and your family and all of that stuff on the line. And she did that in so many other ways. Right. So to me, this scene just seemed a little bit insincere.
I mean, it's a scene that could only be written from 2017.
Right.
It's a scene that's trying to explain progress.
Yeah, and the thing is, the message was already, I think, inherent in the plot of the film, and we did not need that spelled out for us.
And he says, don't worry that there will come a day when we will be able to love who we want to love out in the open. Which, I mean, he doesn't have to say that because we're living that right now.
Well, yeah, as best we can in some places. Right. Luckily, you know what I mean. But so to me, like, I would just take that scene out, and we understand that Ted was an incredibly brave and creative person. Billie Jean King was an incredibly brave and creative person, and just kind of go with the understanding of times were hard in the 70s and times are hard now, and we all can make strides where we can with the power that we have when we have the strength.
Challenge and frustration of biopics in general, because so often they're being written from this hindsight point of view. And whenever the writer starts to tackle a subject as if they're looking backwards, I find it to be infuriating.
Yeah. And to me, it's just like, they're okay. So I'm going to go to Victoria and Abdul and then double back. Okay. So with Victoria and Abdul, so the story actually behind the creation of this film is fascinating. So apparently at the end of her life, Queen Victoria of England had a Muslim from India clerk that worked for her, and they became very close. And when she finally passed away, all evidence of him was destroyed.
Burned, yeah.
So, like, he was essentially erased from history until 2010. They found his personal journals, which contained photographs. And then from that, from that history, this film was born. So this film was based on his journals. But the way that they start this film just bothered me so much because it started with that little thing that they put, like, based on a true story. But then it said ... italics, mostly. So and when you go to see, or when I go to see a biopic movie, I'm there with the understanding that this is, like, fictionalized. Yeah. I know that it's not the truth.
Yeah. Unless we're talking about Fargo.
Unless we're talking about Fargo, clearly. But, to me, biopics are like truth fan fiction. Like, I love the truth, but I need to make it a little bit better. I need to make it a little bit more like me. I need to make the truth a little bit more like now. And then when you do that, then you have a work of fiction. So, to me, like, I say with all of these biopic based on true event stories, just take that phrase off.
Some people really believe that shit, though.
And the fact that they're being, like, winky about it at the beginning of this movie, I think just pulls the rug out of the film just straight away. And then
Victoria and Abdul's trying to be Domino. There's only one Domino, Victoria and Abdul.
So to me, I found Victoria and Abdul, like, completely, like, if you're talking about, like, an idealized situation, this is, like, completely glossed. This is like if you took the story of Queen Victoria and her Muslim clerk and made it like a romance novel, except for she's super old, so nobody gets laid. That's what this is.
So it's basically like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Oh.
I'm gonna agree with you because I'm an agreeable person. Judi Dench plays Queen Victoria, and of course she is a freaking goddess, but she is old and playing like. She didn't need the Jacky Chan makeup to make her look any older, and she was playing Queen Victoria at the end of her life, and as I was watching her, play that she's expiring, I was like, how did the people on set know that Judi Dench was just not dying on that spot?
Lisa.
Oh my god!
Did she die?
Yeah, Queen Victoria. Yes,
she's dead now, man.
She died for this movie. She expired on screen. Method actor.
I mean, even in real life, like after
no, she's still.
No. She's still with us.
She's still.
And a
not
queen
Victoria.
But not Queen Victoria. Soup's dead.
Yeah, no, she's dead.
But she's exquisite in this role. She starts the film super sad. She's already lost, Albert, and she had like some kind of second lover, and so now. So she's super lonely. Abdul Karim, played by Ali Fazal, comes into her life, like as part of some kind of ceremony, and she thinks he's cute, and she wants to keep him around, and he starts sharing with her about his culture, and she starts kind of they just become very close, and she starts, everything is just, everything goes through him, everything she does. They do together. And Eddie Izzard, talking about another distracting stand-up comedian in a movie. Eddie Izzard plays Bertie, the Prince of Wales. And so he's like her disappointing son who is the heir to the throne. And he's like super frustrated because he's like in his 60s and his mom just straight up will not die. And so he's like disgusted that she has this colored... Those are my quotes. Person, in the castle, and she wants to make him a knight and all of this stuff. And he's teaching her Urdu and all of this stuff. And then, they find different things to disgrace and blackmail.
But how great is it that Eddie Izzard is playing the Prince of Wales?
I know, but I could not get because he's done so much material about the royals and stuff like that. I could not get him talking about. The cake on her head and all of that
Dress
stuff.
to Kill, that whole set.
Yeah, so that was in my head the whole time.
Was he at least good as far as
his performance? He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. He's no Steve Carell.
No.
He's great. He's full-time Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't... He's kind of like Sarah Silverman. Like, try as he may, he will always be Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
But even through the glass, you can kind of see, like, there's, like, terrible shit happening. So when he comes... to England. Abdul comes to England. He has a friend, Muhammad, who's played by Adil Akhtar, who I know I've seen in stuff before. He was in The Dictator. He was in Four Lions. He was in The Big Sick. There you go. He played Naveed.
Yeah.
He played the brother. So he comes with him, and because Queen Victoria is keeping Abdul there, Muhammad has to stay. And that guy is just kind of just like in jail. He's just like stuck there. He can't go home.
He doesn't want to be there?
He does not want to be there. He's just begging to please go home. Meanwhile, he gets like some kind of like pneumonia and just freaking dies. And that's just in the story. And we're not going... And like, yeah, it's sad. But my entire time is like, why is this movie not about poor Muhammad, who is like stuck being this steward... separated from his family. Meanwhile, Abdul is off, gallivanting with the queen. It doesn't seem fair. So, even through them trying to, beautify this story, you can tell, terrible things are happening, and why are we not talking about them? So, to me, biopics have kind of got this earned reputation of being kind of glamorized stories about people's lives, people who are just human beings, and now all of a sudden they're made to look like these heroes or these saints, and I think that it does history a disservice because we watch that and it just doesn't feel true. So to me, I feel like in Battle of the Sexes, to go back and explain how history was bad to us in one scene and how the present is so much better or the near future is going to be so much better. It's one, like, it's just not necessary. And two, I don't know why I started with one, because it's not necessary.
It's disingenuous.
It's disingenuous.
It's BS.
Yeah. So I would still say that I really enjoyed Battle of the Sexes.
Same.
I'll straight up say that Victoria and Abdul, I could take or leave. I gave it a 2.5 on my letterbox.
Got it. No domino. Got it.
Right. So no domino. But I still am glad that I saw it. So yay.
Okay.
That was my weekend, Dork.
And both films VF. I don't remember if Battle of the Sexes was.
Yeah, I think that they were.
Okay. All right. For all you other emetophobes out there.
That's right.
You're welcome. B, how was your week in Dork?
Well,
that's a rhetorical question.
It was great because this morning I watched Lucky from director John Carroll Lynch. It's his first film. You know him from...
he directed it?
Yeah, the guy from the Drew Carey Show, Zodiac and the Invitation. That's his first movie.
Did you say that when you reviewed it, B?
I think I did.
And I, both Brian and Billy have talked about this on the podcast and on our YouTube channel when they were discussing Lost Weekend 8. Yeah. We were at Fantastic Fest, so we missed this screening. But I have to address it from my own point of view because it rocked me to my core. I loved this movie. Yes, it is it's almost the last performance from Harry Dean Stanton. He does have a role coming up in the movie Frank and Ava. But the film itself is about this 90-year-old man named Lucky. He's called Lucky because in World War II, when he was on the ship, he was the cook, the luckiest job in the entire Navy. Facing the end, right? We all gotta go. None of us survive our time on Earth. No. And he's an atheist, and you don't know it at the front, but he's terrified. He's really, really, really scared. It's one of those movies where you're introduced to the character. He's alone. He's not lonely. He's alone. Mm-hmm. He's lone for all you Tick fans out there. And he has his routine. He gets up, he puts his clothes on a certain way. He drinks his tall glass of milk, and he goes to the diner and he does his crossword puzzle. Yeah. And he goes home and he watches his game shows. And that's his day. That's how he lives his life. But over the course of the first 30 minutes, you see how he interacts with all these people in various places. Yeah. He has conversations with the guy who runs the diner, played by Barry Shabaka Henley, from Collateral. Mm-hmm. And, he has conversations with James Darren and Beth Grant, who run the bar. He has conversations at the grocery mart where he gets his jug of milk and his American Spirit cigarettes. Yeah. And he has conversations with his doctor, played by Ed Begley Jr. And the miracle of Lucky to me is, it is a film where you're just watching people have conversations and you're watching a man think about the end. At the start of the movie, he plays a word. He gets help playing a word in the crossword, a realism. And he gets hung up on the definition of realism and how my realism is different than your realism. My truth is different than your truth. And how that kernel snowballs through the narrative all the way to the climax, and how each of these encounters with these various human beings build like a tower. And when it reaches the top, when it reaches the climax of this movie, all these stories that he's been listening to build to a philosophy that satisfies him, that prepares him for the end. And it's all about how this 90-year-old man is ready for death. And he's only ready for death because he interacts with the people around him in this very, very tiny town. And I would love to do an in-depth, like an ItMod homework and ItMod film club of Lucky, maybe in 2018, once it hits Blu-ray, because there's this conversation that, that starts with this crossword puzzle that goes to this lost tortoise, that David Lynch as Howard.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So when David Lynch shows up, you're like, this is ridiculous.
David Lynch?
Yeah, David Lynch. He shows up. He has a performance. He's Howard. He's his friend at the bar, and he's lost this tortoise. This tortoise has wandered out from his yard, and you're like, what a great, wacky David Lynch performance. But the second time we meet David Lynch delivers this amazing monologue.
That's the one that brought me to tears, where he talks about the tortoise and carrying the shell.
And the shell,
oh, dude.
I was like, David Lynch, this is one of the best things you've done.
And me and Billy talked about that because when we watched it at Lost Weekend, watching that scene, you can hear people in the crowd laughing at what David Lynch is saying.
Because you're like, David Lynch.
Yeah, and then it was a moment with David Lynch when he starts that monologue, and he's like, "Look, this is not funny. Like, this is my friend, And he goes into this whole thing about the tortoise and the shell, and it felt like he was actually talking to those people who thought this was funny, laughing at him, and it just quieted the audience, and you're listening to him talk about this tortoise,
and so then you take this piece from Howard, David Lynch's character, and you take this piece from the crossword puzzle, and you take this piece from Ed Begley Jr.'s comment, and then he has an encounter with Tom Skerritt at the diner, and you take that element, and then there's James Darren and his philosophy at the bar, and then how all those pieces build. Like when I'm listening to the final monologue from Harry Dean Stanton,
about the cigarettes. Yeah.
It is like the greatest narrative magic trick that I have experienced in the theater.
It's so good.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful movie I've seen this year and in a long time. And I really cherish this movie. And it's the type of movie where, like, you want to know who Brad is? You need to watch Lucky.
Yeah.
And I know Lisa hasn't seen it yet, and Darren hasn't seen it yet. I'm making Lisa go. When I'm at work tomorrow, Lisa has to go to the 10 a.m. screening of Lucky.
I look forward to it.
And I'm hopeful that Lisa will enjoy it, and I'm even more curious to see if she sees why I say what I say.
It's total Brad. It's up Brad's alley.
It's old man porn, certainly.
Old man, Brad
yeah. I mean, when I saw it, you're the first person I thought about after me and Billy finished watching it. I was like, damn, why isn't that Brad not here?
Well, and the other stunning thing about this film is, I love Harry Dean Stanton. We've talked about him after his passing. I think he has a body of work that is unmatched. The history that is contained in his career is staggering. But 10 minutes into Lucky, I'm honestly not thinking about Harry Dean Stanton. I am thinking about Lucky. Mm-hmm. And, if there's any greater compliment to an actor, I can't think of one.
Yeah.
And when Lisa's mentions about Judi Dench and, where she is in her timeline playing Queen Victoria, I was expecting to have that meta sadness. And I did have sadness, but that sadness all came from the character of Lucky. And the joy came from the character of Lucky. But here's the other thing. 30 seconds into this movie, you're like, how the fuck is this John Carroll Lynch's first movie? Because it is beautifully composed.
Oh, yeah. When you see the opening with him doing his yoga. Yeah.
I mean, the way it's edited, the way it's shot and framed and lit.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
Yeah.
It is a visual feast unto itself.
No, it is.
And I still have questions about the movie, and I need to revisit it. In particular, well, I won't say it right now because that's part of the exploration of the movie.
But you're right. It's really just the interactions he's having with all these different people that I really took away from it, especially that when almost like you could say the inciting incident and then the conversation he has with his doctor in that office. Even though that's it's a funny scene, but it's a truthful scene that really sets him on this journey. And I thought that was like just a really good moment. And just all like you say, these different scenes, the scenes in the bar where he's talking to all the people at the bar and then the diner. And
well, what's cool about the movie is it's a mystery. It's a human mystery that slowly reveals itself. And I'm not sure if it's at the halfway point or 2/3 when the pieces from that you've witnessed before start falling into place and you can see what they are building to. It's probably at the Tom Skerritt sequence where I was like, oh, I see how this is all connecting. And I don't know. It felt like a magic trick. I've said that before, but it felt like ta-da, and then Brad crumble.
Yeah. Even the storyline with, is it Ron Livingston?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, Ron Livingston comes in and he's this,
insurance,
this leech, this lawyer
Yeah.
who is constructing a will for David Lynch's character, Howard.
Yeah.
And the disgust
that Lucky
has for his profession and what he is doing in that moment. You're like, oh man, he's taken down Ron Livingston.
But when they come back in the diner and they sit down and have that conversation,
and I'm still not sure how I feel about the Ron Livingston character, if I like him or not.
Okay. Because do you think he was being honest?
I think there was a sales pitch there too.
Okay.
But I also think during that sales pitch, there's a change.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't sing this movie's praises high enough.
It's great.
I loved Lucky.
It was great. It's one of the best of Lost Weekend.
It's one of the best of the year.
Touche.
Yeah. And, I've started the process of going through and looking at my favorite movies from 2017. And my top 25 is going to be really hard to construct. And while I liked a lot about 2016, and I certainly felt like 2015 was a superior year in film, 2017 has given 2015 a run for its money.
Especially in this latter part of the year. With the things that have been coming out the last couple of months and looking forward in the next 2 months coming out, I mean, it's promising.
Yeah. So, Lucky. Go see it.
Definitely.
All right. I will check it out. What else you got?
Tomorrow at 10, we could go together.
Wish. You know what?
I'll take this opportunity to promote Film School Rejects one more time. Earlier this week, I had an interview with Frank Grillo of Wheelman come out. Brian, I wish you were in the room with me while I had him on speakerphone. It was wild.
His voice was reverberating in the Dork
When
cave.
we're done recording, I'll play you the audio. He's like walking the streets of New York City. It turns out, I found out afterwards, that he was walking to the New York Comic Con to the Javits Center because him and Jeremy Rush were promoting Wheelman there. But we get to talk. We had a really nice conversation. Because it was on the streets of the city, some of it was really hard to hear. It took a hell of a time transcribing that conversation, but it was a solid one. It's a good one. You can read it now. I'm about to post my interview with the director Jeremy Rush, and it's one of my favorite interviews that I've done. I loved this conversation with him. We talk about the fact that Frank Grillo is the only face that this movie could have. We talk about Garrett Dillahunt and Shea Wingham and all the other weird little people that populate this movie, and we talk about the logistics of crafting this film in 19 nights. And how they had to heavily storyboard this movie to execute it in such a tight time frame. I know Darren and I have a little bit of a different opinion on Wheelman. It didn't really hit you that hard at Fantastic Fest. Right. I was on the other end. I loved Wheelman. Okay. What I liked about it was certainly, confining Frank Grillo into the cockpit, into the driver's seat POV, but also how they shoot the chase sequences, how they mount the cameras on those cars, how it's not. You don't get these, for probably budgetary reasons and logistic reasons. You don't have these wide-angled car chase shots. The action is very tight and claustrophobic. And I thought that was.
I don't think you ever see a full exterior shot of the car.
You don't. No.
Yeah.
It is in your face.
Oh, so you never see the exterior of the car that Frank Grillo is driving?
You do, but you don't
the
see
film stays in.
You don't see wide shots. It's not like you see cars chasing each other and doing donuts and figure eights.
Interesting. Okay.
It's very now and in the driver's seat of the movie. But I love Frank Grillo in it. I love the supporting performances. I love Caitlin Carmichael as his daughter. I think she's really wonderful. And I liked the build of the movie quite a bit. Maybe it's those Fantastic Fest goggles, but in my opinion, Wheelman, Gerald's Game, and to a lesser degree, 1922 are three of the strongest Netflix movies we've gotten. And I'm including things like Okja and, Small Crimes, and McGee's The Babysitter, which just landed.
Oh, McGee directed that?
Yes.
And don't forget War Machine.
I have forgotten War Machine, and I'm going to forget it now.
Beast of No Nations counts, right?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's
another great,
another strong one.
Yeah.
But Wheelman comes out on the 20th.
It's not out yet.
No,
this Friday.
It certainly harkens back to that era of 70s, 60s car chase movies that we love.
Okay.
The Vanishing Points and the Bullets and the Race with the Devils and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But from a filmmaking standpoint, it feels very contemporary to me.
Okay.
And that's what I responded to.
I'm excited to check it out.
So, yeah, that's my Weekend Dork.
All right. For my Weekend Dork, check one, check two. Okay, I'm going to have to narrow it down. I think I saw a shit ton of films this past week.
Jealous. Do you work?
I do, but as soon as I get off...
I ask myself that same question.
Every time I get onto Facebook this week, I log on and Darren's like round 2, and like, what? You've already seen one movie? Now you're on your second film of the day?
My double feature. Like, what?
Yeah. That Movie Pass, man. Like, it's.
I know. I need to pick that up.
It's a miracle.
I need to get that, especially this time of year. I need to get that with all the Oscar movies coming out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. So that'll be very helpful when that comes around. But I'll do this. I'll briefly talk about Happy Death Day. I don't want to spoil that too much. I just want to promote that film because it's a surprisingly entertaining film.
I've heard it's really good. I might try to check it out this weekend.
I think you dig it because firstly, I don't know what vibe people are getting from the trailer. But I would just say this just to prepare you or manage expectations. It is not a horror film, and I don't think it's trying to be. I feel like the movie understands that. I don't want to say
to me. Let me give, because I haven't seen the movie, so I can tell you my impression that I got from the trailer.
Yep.
To me, it looks like kind of like slapsticky, fun kind of.
Yes, minus the slapstick. There's the characters don't take themselves too seriously. Okay, so this is obviously it shares a similarity with Tom Cruise's Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. But I would say, you know how in Edge of Tomorrow, Tom Cruise doesn't take himself too serious. He allows himself to be fallible and make mistakes, and he just can't get it right, and he keeps trying over and over. Well, the lead character in Happy Death Day is the same way. She does have a character arc. She starts out as this vapid sorority girl, very, superficial and fine and whatever, like all that. But over the course, like Edge of Tomorrow, how Cruise starts out this coward, but over the course of he has an arc of becoming Tom Cruise, the action hero. Well, this character goes from being this very superficial person to having a change. So there's that. But in doing so, she's not above understanding that shit. I just screwed up. I'm about to die again. Fuck. I'll reset. Like in the same way Tom Cruise does it. So with the movie not taking itself too seriously, it allows that character to stretch and have some fun. And because she's the only one that's dying, there's no horror, or there's nothing really scary, because she's the one that's going to die. It's not like a mass murderer out there killing a bunch of people. So you're not watching a movie with a bunch of teenagers and you're wondering who's going to get it next and how they're going to die. You're just this one character she keeps dying over and over. So the movie really works on a more of a mystery level of trying to figure out who is her killer. She's trying to find out who the killer is so she can prevent the killer from killing her, so she'll stop coming back. And the movie doesn't spend time trying to explain how she keeps coming back or why or whatever. It's just she just wants to find out who does it. Yeah. And in doing so, and just focusing on that, you don't have this convoluted trying to find an origin of some MacGuffin of what's bringing her back or how to stop it or destroy this thing. It's just trying to find who is this killer. Yeah. And so the movie, it has these red herrings there as far as suspects of who could it be. And the movie takes like several left turns. You think you have it figured out, but then the movie takes a left turn. Then you think the movie is telling you who did it. Like, oh, okay, the movie says this is the person that did it, but then it takes another left turn. So it's really fun in that way that it keeps giving you something different as it's stringing you along to the end. And, the character in the beginning, by proxy of how that character is written and who she is someone that you're, like, oh my goodness, I can't stand her, and she deserves this or whatever. But then over the course of the film, like in Edge of Tomorrow, who she is, she kind of changes, and she realizes living this day over and over, interacting with these people, seeing how, forcing her to focus on her interactions with these people, force her to take a look at, her behavior, who she is, how they're responding to her. And so she ends up causing a change in her. And so, I think in that way, it separates itself from these other like Blumhouse pictures and, OEG and Origin and shit like that. But again, it was a really fun time at the movies. So I think if you go in with those expectations, not expecting like, cause it's a PG-13. So it's it's not focused on like gore and things like that or scares. Like every time she dies, you'll see a knife come up, and right as it's supposed to hit her, strike her, she wakes up. So it doesn't really focus so much on gore and kills. And again, this is, there's no suspense of who's going to die next, because it's her and she's going to die. So it's not concerned with that. It's really just
more of a whodunit.
It's more of a whodunit, and just focus on this fun character.
Is the ending satisfying? The reveal?
Yeah, because I would say because it wasn't who I thought it was. Who I thought it was, the movie gives me that, and I go, oh, okay, that's it. But then it takes another left, and I was like, oh shit. So, and it wasn't someone who I was expecting. So I appreciated that.
But now we're gonna expect the person you don't expect, and now we're gonna get the person that we expect.
We should have seen it opening night.
Whoever you expect is not gonna be that person.
Yeah, but I'm a really good expector, Darren.
You are. That's why I'm excited for you to see it, because I want to know if you're going to pick it out, if you're going to pick that person out. So, yeah.
Gotta watch me expectorate.
Yes. And I also I just saw The Florida Project. That's Sean Baker's new film. Sean Baker's the director of Tangerine,
right,
which is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And it is I want to say a totally different film, but it's kind of cut from the same cloth. And it stars, I don't want to mispronounce her name.
But you will.
I will. I'm not gonna pronounce her name. Anyway.
Oh, that's way better.
It's about this single mother, and her daughter, and they live in this hotel, or this motel, the motel on this strip just outside of Disney World in Florida. And I don't want to, maybe it's not necessarily just about the mother, but it's more about the daughter and her summer. And we meet her at the beginning of the summer, and just her day to day as this kid who lives in a less than ideal living situation. Like her mom she's not necessarily mom of the year material. She's a young mom, so she's off doing her own thing and smoking and stuff like that. And these kids run around unsupervised, not just around the motel premises, but they go, they have adventures like way far away, and they're doing things like they'll wander off to like some old colorful houses in this area in Florida, this old neighborhood that's abandoned, and then they're setting pillows on fire in the fireplace, burning the building down and shit like that. But what I appreciate about the film is that, just like with Tangerine, Sean Baker is providing a window into the lives of a people that we may not necessarily come in contact with or have an understanding as far as their day-to-day how it compares to our day-to-day. And he does so non-judgmentally. His film and his language doesn't cast them in a particular light. He allows those people to be who they are, and we as an audience look at those people, and based on our lives and who we are and our experiences, we do or don't cast a judgment. And so with this film, you can look at the mom and say, she's irresponsible, or I don't like her, or she doesn't deserve to have custody of the kid, or she's just making bad decisions. But the film Sean Baker doesn't paint her in that light. I mean, because we are meeting this kid and this woman at the beginning of this summer. We don't meet the young lady when she's a kid and see her upbringing that led her to be this parent that she is now. So, it wouldn't even be right to fully judge her, because we don't really know her in the circumstance that put her where we see her now. We just see her in the present, and we're offered this brief window of a few months, and we see these kids. And the magical thing about the film is that this kid is growing up in a motel, and this motel is almost like a project, like an urban project. Then the film is called The Florida Project only because that was the code name for Disney World when it was in planning stages, before they were going to build it. But this kid is growing up in this situation. The parent, it's a single parent home. The mom isn't there. She's left to wander and go on these adventures with her friends wherever, unsupervised. But to her, it's all innocence. She's having the summer of her life. Like she's not aware of her mom having to turn tricks in the room while she's in the bathtub taking a bath. Like she's oblivious to all of that. She's oblivious to the struggle that her playmates and their parents are going through. And it's just a reflection of, for me personally, my childhood, in that, and I do it as a parent now. Like Sia, if I'm doing my job as a father correctly, it's my hope. And I don't know if it's possible or even the right thing to do, but it's my hope that she'll never know any struggle that I'm going through as a parent to make sure that she eats or has food on the table or clothes on her back. Like I want her to be concerned with being a kid,
right?
Not, Daddy, why are you stressed out, or are you crying? Like I don't want her to bear that burden. And as a kid myself, I remember, like, I wouldn't know what my dad was going through until I was till I was an adult, and we would have conversations, and I would find out, or he would open up to me about things that he had gone through. And it wasn't until I was an adult when I found out about, the reason why my mother left us and the Dear John letter that he got. Like, I never knew the pain that was for him to raise me on his own. Like, I never saw that. Like, he never showed me that. And so, like, I identified with these kids in this movie, in that, to them, they're just living their best life. Meanwhile, the mom, for someone else, can sit on the outside and easily judge her and say she's making the wrong decisions, or she's a bad mother, or her priorities are fucked up. But, like, we don't know what that was that put her in this position. She may have had an upbringing like her daughters, where there was a single parent home and there was no mother figure or father figure there instilling, so we may be watching a cycle continue. But the daughter she's having this wonderful time. And I just have to say, Willem Dafoe is in it. He plays the manager at this hotel, and it is the standout performance and character in this movie. I've not seen a Willem Dafoe performance or character, not performance, but a character like this. He's not like a grumpy, hey kids, get out of here, I can't stand you, I'm gonna kick your mom out. I mean, he's the manager there, so he has to uphold rules and things like that. But he genuinely cares about the people that live there and these kids. And, he's not above, the kids run through the lobby and run into his back office because they're playing hide and go seek, and they dart up under his desk. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm trying to do work. Don't kick the wires. Don't kick the wires. And then they hide up under there, and then the little boy comes running in, and where are they at? And he smiles and scoots back. And like he understands that this is their world. The least I can do is make sure they don't see the problems the stressors that I'm going through or what their mom is going through. So it's such a warm character. I don't know, like the same way Sean Baker had those characters in Tangerine that at first glance, if you were to judge the book by the cover, you'd maybe be taken aback and have your own preconceived notion of what these people are going to be like. Or even when you first, like the first 5 minutes of the movie, how, those two characters can come off as like really abrasive or whatever. But then Sean Baker shows you and allows you to be with them, and you can see the human underneath. This film, the Florida Project, like Tangerine, it's just populated with human beings that have different circumstances but feel the same pain, the same loss, the same anger, the same frustrations, the same hope, the same innocence as we do. And I don't know, like, and the ending, I predict is going to be pretty divisive. I'm still processing it, but I think I understand. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I understand what maybe I should take away from it and what maybe it means for the character and the little girl. Because I found myself feeling a certain type of way about it because I was focusing more on the mom. But when I reminded myself that maybe the movie, again, is really, it follows, it's through the eyes. We follow this little girl, her daughter, throughout 80 to 90% of the picture. So again, maybe it's from her perspective. So in that regards, then what the ending means, it's really about her. And if that's the case, it's an honest ending, I think, even though, just like I said initially, we come in these people's lives not at the beginning, but in the middle, at the beginning of this particular summer. So there was a life before the title card comes up, and there's going to be a life after the rolling credits. And I feel like the ending is honest and stays true to the beginning in that regard. But it's a really touching and warm movie.
Right, because that's what I was just about to ask you, because I read the description of this movie, and to me, I was like, this is going to be devastating. This is going to be a sad journey. Is that the case?
It's in a way, yes, because we were talking about it earlier with the biopics and how there's a gloss with when you're fictionalizing these accounts of suppossly true.
Sean Baker doesn't really do
like
gloss.
There's no gloss. The truthfulness, the upbeat parts of it, the warmth and the heart strictly come from the children and Willem Dafoe. He matches the innocence of the kids and the warmth and the good, even though the kids can be considered bad and unruly because they're running around and they're telling off grown folks, hey, get off my property, get away from my stand, begging for money, and you can't tell us what to do, you're not the boss of us. I mean, you can look at them and say that they're bad kids, but again, they're just products of their parents aren't there, and so they're being kids.
Right.
And so there's an innocence to that. And then again, they're having the time of they don't understand that they're living in poverty. They don't understand that just right across the highway is this multi-billion-dollar entity that, it has it's a whole other world where they're just throwing away friggin' money. Like, it's just, they have their own, their ecosystem and food. Like, it's just insane. Just right across the road, there's this life of, it's this whole other alien existence. But to them on this side, they're just as happy as the kids that are in the park. And so for me, like thinking about that, because there are moments where she'd be walking down, the mom will be walking with the daughter down the street, past like a street sign, exit, you're on Pluto Lane or Goofy Lane or whatever. That will remind you that they're right there next to Disney World. And when you think about the luxuries that the people can afford who go there versus the people who we're following in this film, but how the kids, you wouldn't know, they don't know any different.
It's kind of like downsizing, right?
Yeah, but the kids are like the people are like normal size. They're not tiny people. But yeah.
But the messages are identical.
And it's just it's these kids making the most of, and it's the adults trying to make the most of what they have, and some of them are just used to living that way, and they don't see any other way out of it, i.e. the mom. But the kids also are being used to it, but to them it's not as stressful. They're not at rock bottom. They're on the top, and just how your childhood and your innocence can give you that particular perspective, and how, unfortunately, as you get older, that changes and reality sets in. I don't know. So I highly recommend checking it out. If not, I mean, like I said, I'm really curious to discuss people's thoughts on the ending of that film. But also, I just want to hear people love on Willem Dafoe, because he is worth the price of admission alone.
And your admission was cheap because of your movie pass.
Yes. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, it's the price of a ticket. I mean, Movie Pass is paying. Where did I go see that? Angelica. Movie Pass paid Angelica that $12. So they're getting their money's worth, and I'm getting my money's worth.
Yay.
So yeah, it was good. Highly recommend it. Definitely check the Florida Project out. Unfortunately, it's only in our area, in the DMV area, listeners, it is only playing at the Angelica, the Shirlington in Virginia, the Alexandria or the Arlington area, or Shirlington, Virginia area, and East Street Cinema.
Okay.
So because it's in such a limited release, I'm assuming it's going to have a limited run, so it may not be in theaters that long. If you can check it out soon, highly recommend it. That's going to do it for my Weekend Dork. What do you got coming up, B? Are you excited for anything this week? What's coming out Friday?
The Snowman, but it hasn't been getting good reviews.
I'm going to like it.
So, yeah.
I
love,
going to spite like it?
I'm going to spite like it.
I love Michael Fassbender,
like
but
his body.
it's just not getting a lot of traction.
Yeah.
So I haven't really been, it hasn't been on my mind. So I might try to check out Happy Death Day. There was something else coming out. Oh, Geostorm comes out, but I don't think I'm going to check that out.
I just want to eat popcorn.
Let me know how that is, Brad.
I will.
I watch movies, but I got to catch up on a lot of stuff. I still want to see Battle of the Sexes. I still want to see Happy Death Day. I still want to see the Florida Project.
Yeah.
And I want to see Geostorm.
So, I mean,
can we go see Geostorm together?
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to come see Geostorm.
Yeah. It's on a Thursday, Lisa.
But of course, I think the movie this weekend I'm looking forward to the most is, like you said, Brad, Netflix, The Wheelman.
Oh yeah, okay.
October 20th. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, Wheelman's that's a Joe Carnahan joint, Brian.
Yes, I'm ready. I am ready.
Brian's probably going to really like that.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think he'll dig it.
Yeah.
Wife Dork.
Yes.
What do you got coming up?
I have no idea. I guess I'll watch all the movies you got to watch, and I'll watch Geostorm with you guys. Wait.
Yay! I will wait. I can wait. Yay. I don't know if Brad can wait.
He won't wait.
I can't wait.
But yes, please check out the Florida Project, Lisa.
And Lucky first, Lisa.
Lucky. Well, I'm seeing Lucky tomorrow.
All right.
I'm skipping whatever Brian watched.
I don't even know what did
Marshall.
I watch.
You watched Marshall. I might watch Marshall.
I'm going to watch Marshall on video or streaming.
Yeah, I feel biopicked out for a while.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not watching Victoria and Abdul.
No, you can skip it.
Yeah.
No, that guy is handsome. I agree, Queen Victoria.
All right, B, what are you watching?
I'm going to check out Happy Death Day, the Florida
Project.
Project.
I'm going to watch that too. And that.
But I'm really excited to see Blade Runner 2049 again.
Okay. Same. So I'm not the only one who's been thinking about that movie.
I've been thinking about that all week.
Same.
And I want to see it over at the Udvar Hazy, laser projected.
Oh, shit. I didn't know it was playing there. Did you tell me it was playing there?
I did just now.
All right. When are you going to see it?
I'm not sure.
God damn it.
Wednesday? No. Wednesday, Secret Society of Filmmasons, Bloodsport. Kumite. So I'm definitely seeing that on Wednesday.
But they're also showing Evil Dead 2 there.
They show Evil Dead 2 every other month there.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to a limited run of Tokyo Ghoul, live action adaptation. It's a Japanese film, an adaptation of a Japanese manga and anime. So I'm going to try to check that out this week. I'm going to also try to check out Geostorm, and I guess I'll try to squeeze in this rewatch of Blade Runner with Brad, depending on what day we can decide upon. I've been thinking about that film a lot. I've been reading people's conversation about the film, and I feel like I have to rewatch it before I can fully...
Blade Runner?
Yeah, 2049.
I've been thinking about that, too, because I haven't done my review yet on YouTube. I've been trying to wait to... trying to put my thoughts together about it.
Let's go see. We should do an Idmon field trip.
Yay!
We never do Idmon field trips together. We don't see movies together anymore.
No.
So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you can stay tuned for the rest of this week. We got Idmon Film Club. Hashtag Idmon Film Club. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
Wife Dork picked that. So we're going to discuss that based on your questions, comments, and observations. So at the end of the week, we have a fistful of vampires. Look, full disclosure, we may or may not have already done a fistful of vampires, but there are thousands, literally thousands.
I was having some serious deja vu as I was putting together my list. I might have some repeats.
It's okay.
Some are just classics.
I'm gonna hypnotize listeners so they won't remember and make you forget.
In some lore, that is a Dracula's skill.
Yeah. All right, so be on the lookout for that. And that's gonna do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go out and watch some movies, please. And until next time.